Mike, you've got, you were a paratrooper.
Yes.
And what branches is a paratrooper?
Well, actually, all branches of the service have paratroopers. I was in the Army as a paratrooper, and that's what the Army calls you as if you've gone through jump school as a paratrooper. So as soon as I graduated as a paratrooper, I immediately got sent to Vietnam, and I spent a year in Vietnam and got wounded pretty seriously at the end. Actually, I was wounded 3 times. I got wounded in May of '68, September of '68, and then the last time was April of '69. And that one was bad enough that it eventually got me back to the States, and I got discharged right out of the hospital and never saw duty again after that.
You developed expertise in the bush, as I call it. Maybe it wasn't a bush, but you were known to be extremely good at organizing ambushes of the enemy.
I was, yep. And that came about, we lived in the jungle. We weren't like most soldiers who had a rear area and they had a barracks with a bunk bed in it, and they'd go out into the jungle for a day or 2 and then back to their area. We actually lived in the jungle. We did have a rear area, but we only got back there. Normally we'd go back for about 3 days to rest up a little bit. Every 4 to 6 weeks we'd go back to the rear for just a little rest area. Anyway, out in the jungle constantly, every night, and sometimes during the daytime, we would send out ambushes, and ambush a trail or any place where you thought the enemy might be coming, and always looking for the enemy and looking to ambush them and kill them. And early on in my company, in the platoon that I was in, we never had any successful ambushes. And my squad leader, I didn't think, wanted to find the enemy. He'd seen enough fighting, didn't want to find them, so we didn't take the extra effort it took to really be successful. Well, as time went on, eventually I became a squad leader, and my whole thoughts back in those days was, and same as my captain, company commander, that we're there for one purpose, and that's to fight. And you need to have an enemy to fight. So I actively looked to try to find where the enemy was at. So when it was my turn to take my squad out on ambush, I'd study the maps around the area, and I'd pick what I thought on a map was a likely looking area, and that's where we'd go set up the ambush. And because of that, started having successful ambushes. Successful ambushes means that the enemy comes through and you kill him. And that's what we did. And it wasn't long, and it turned out my squad in my company was having successful ambushes, the most in the entire brigade. Our brigade consisted of 4 infantry battalions, paratrooper infantry battalions, that were out looking for fights all the time. And anyway, I ended up being the most successful in our entire brigade. And that was just kind of a, I was a woodsman. I grew up in the woods, and I knew how to operate in the woods. So.
What did you told me about a sign back at when you would go back to the rear? There was a sign.
Our company sign. Every company had a little sign in front of their company headquarters, and so people walking down the road would know when they got the Alpha Company, Bravo Company, Charlie Company, whatever. Well, the Charlie Company sign, nice big sign, and it said, "Death is our business, and business has been good." Welcome to Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 503rd Parachute Infantry of the 173rd Airborne Brigade. Death is our business, and business has been good. We were all pretty proud of that sign.
Of course, with, you know, I've read your book, and you saw a lot of what I think you described people you became very close to that never came back alive.
Yeah.
And some of it was booby traps. I mean, it was just like out of a blue sky day that's going good, all of a sudden somebody gets hit with a booby trap.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost always your point man or your flank man. If you're moving as a company, well, anytime you're moving, you always got a point man. But when we're moving as a company, where there's 3 platoons of infantrymen moving, always moved in single file. You always had a point man, but you also had guys out on flank, and that was to prevent you from you yourself getting ambushed. And almost always, the people who got hurt with booby traps was the point man or the flank man. And the enemy was very, very good at setting booby traps using hand grenades or mines or mortar rounds, whatever. They'd booby trap it using really fine monofilament tripwire, and almost like a spider web, that fine. And when you trip that, it'd blow them up. We lost a lot of guys that way. That was a heck of a way to go. Now, normally, the guys didn't die on the spot. Guys that were blown up in a booby trap usually lost their legs, their arms, you know, usually the lower extremities. It was a gory sight, pretty bad.
Wiebe Knives, voted one of Field & Stream's best hunting products. Every Wiebe knife comes with up to 24 wicked sharp replacement blades. After all, it's a Wiebe. Order your Wiebe knife today with up to 24 free replacement blades at wiebeknives.com.